Good evening. I had the privilege of working in Zimbabwe for 10 years on a national program for women and children. In the end, most of it, sadly and tragically, was in terms of violence. So I want to share with you the story of Sikili. That's not her real name. And just, it links so many things that in a sense have been shared about poverty, about the vulnerability of women and the girl child, and sadly young boys as well. Sikili, because she was the youngest in the family and the girl, didn't have the opportunity of going to school. Her brothers went to school. So she was playing around the compound. Her mum asked her to go and get something sort of about 2 miles away in a small hut, which was like the store. And on the way, she was waylaid by one of the older men, and in the traditional culture, she was very respectful, and she stopped, and he said that he wanted her to go and buy something for him too. So he took her into the hut, and in fact, there he raped her. So she was terrified and traumatized and came out and went back to her mother. And in a beautiful way, this mother was such a courageous lady. She believed her, and in that particular area, they had community courts. But Mum said she wasn't going to the community court. This was just a horrendous experience for her 10-year-old daughter. She was going to take it to the magistrate's court. That took such courage for that mother to do it. Her husband beat her because he said, "You're breaking tradition." And she said, "But our daughter is more precious." The older man told his younger colleague, and 3 weeks later it happened again to this beautiful young 10-year-old Sikili. I first met them when they came to our office, and the mother said that justice had been denied her. And Sikili was sitting there traumatized. And very quickly we investigated them and discovered that the two men had bribed the magistrate. So when I went to see the particular magistrate, in Roman Dutch law, which Zimbabwe operates under, you can't have an appeal in the way that we'd have it here or in the British system, but they can get a white slip. So I went to see the magistrate, and he knew I worked with the Catholic Commission for Justice and Peace, which had an excellent name. And sorry. Because of the advocates who had worked there. So when I spoke to him, he said, "But this child is such a presumptuous and forward child, the men thought that she was 18. And yet, the next time I went to see Sikili, she was back to the child she was, because she was with her mother fighting for justice. She was a typical 11-year-old child at this time. So what happened then was the magistrate was furious with me and furious with the CCJPZ, and it almost was like a standoff. But what it told all the other magistrates was, you cannot get away with this. And I was leaving the country shortly after that, and one of the High Court judges was following up this particular case and determined that this magistrate would be struck off. But it shows there that that mother alienated herself from the local community. She alienated herself from her husband, and the last she said to me is, "I have to take the girl children away from him." That somehow the husband could have been linked with it. So it comes back to this betrayal of trust of the people who are closest to us, can so often wound and harm us in the most devastating way. But for Sikili, the lawyers for human rights in Bulawayo took her under their wing, and they promised us they couldn't make up for what had happened to that child. But what they were going to do is ensure that she had secondary school education up to 16. The tragedy there was she then became alienated from her sisters who didn't have that opportunity. So I just share the complexity of a situation like this. But as we've all said, it just fires something inside us that Jesus did come, that each of us may have life and live it to the full. And it's our collective responsibility that I and each of us here have to keep striving and be open to share some of that compassion, some of that love, and do everything in our power to bring about justice. Thank you.